Yo, welcome in, fellas, to the Philcast. Now, this is a completely separate channel from my main Diablo 2 channel, just for YouTube algorithm purposes. So make sure you go ahead down below and subscribe up so you never miss any of my future podcasts. While you're down there, go ahead and click the like button as well. Now, today, we're lucky enough to be joined by an absolute legend in the Diablo 2 YouTube community, and that is DBrunski. If by some crazy thing you haven't subscribed to his channel before, but you're watching this, head to the link in the top of the description and go over and give his YouTube channel a sub. You're not going to regret it because he makes absolutely great Diablo 2 content here on YouTube. Now, I just want to throw out a quick apology. I was a little under the weather, so I did have a little bit of a runny nose, a little sniffle. So please forgive me for that. But that's all the information I wanted to throw out here before we get the podcast going. Let's get after it. Yeah, so here we are, fellas, with an absolute legend up in the house today on the Philcast. So everybody, round of applause in your own basement, watching this on your monitor. We got DBrunski here. How's it going, DBrunski? Thanks for joining me here on the Philcast.
Okay, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear it. Now, we'll just rifle in. I always write down one mega important question. I always come out firing with the hot and spicy ones right off the bat.
Okay,
So
let's hear it.
you got to answer this one for me, and it's a hard-hitting one right off the bat here. Why is Starbucks so much better than Tim Hortons?
It's not. I don't know. I can't answer that one. It's not. Canadians, every Canadian watching this knows that Tim Hortons is the greatest coffee ever.
No, I'm just joking. That's actually a loaded question. I actually like Tim Hortons way better personally.
Nice.
But yeah, I just knew that was one because you're notorious for the double-double on stream, right?
I sure am.
See, personally, I always make my coffee upstairs. Nice and cheap. Doesn't cost much. Going to the store every day, it's got to cost an arm and a leg. I'm too poor for that type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I just get it on my way to work, right?
Yeah,
I do both. Like I do make coffee at home, but yeah, it does save money. It does. Every little thing adds up, but
yeah, nice and easy on the way to work. That totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I figured I'd get you with that. Nobody actually likes Starbucks coffee.
That was a good first question.
Icebreaker. Literally nobody at Starbucks burns it, right? It's burned, right?
I honestly, I've had like maybe 2 Starbucks coffees my entire life.
Yeah, you're scarred by them. They're so bad.
Well, no, it's not a big chain in Canada. Like it was just like the last couple of years that it like became a thing, really.
Ah,
Like
gotcha.
growing up, it was just Tim Hortons and McDonald's. So it's like it's a new thing in Canada.
Gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, I'm right in Michigan, so that's what the Tim Hortons have filtered across the border to where I'm at. So
Right on.
so
Right on.
alrighty. So next up here, what would you say? I know you made a few videos about it, and I did definitely check some of them out. I know you got a little hands-on touch on D4. What are your overall like thoughts on it? How just generally what are your overall thoughts on it so far?
I think it's mostly a step in the right direction. It's not perfect. There's a handful of things that I am not actually a fan of. I do think that there's a certain, like everyone that's watched or has an opinion on D4, there's like a small percentage that just think it's a D3 clone. They're never going to touch it. That's fine. There's a handful of people that are optimistic. And then I think there's just a handful that's going to like wait till it actually comes out and they see people stream it and see like initial reactions. But overall, I think it's a step in the right direction. It seems like, well, visually it's great. The mechanics for the most part are pretty good. I think the boss fights, they feel like they're a little bit, they're not as dynamic as I would like them. They're kind of like slow paced. But the skill tree, like it's a step up from D2. There's more options. The Paragon board drop rates seem okay. I know there a lot of people are kind of like back and forth on trading, and I'm mostly like I'm not 100% for restricted trading, but I do see like a reason why they're implementing it. But if I had like my ideal world, it'd be like unrestricted trading. But like for the most part, I think it's a step in the right direction. I really enjoy it. I think everything that Diablo 2 does well, like a lot of that is sort of like infused into the game of D4. And then I think there's some things that D4 is expanded upon, like better skill tree, open world environment. So it's, I don't know. I like it. And D2 is my favorite game of all time, but I think that D4 is going to be better than D2.
Right. And it come to find out, you've probably heard this sentiment before, actually saying that you think that D4 is going to be a good game or you like it is actually almost like a controversial statement in some circles. I don't know if have you heard that at all or noticed that?
Oh yeah,
It's
like
probably a lot of the D2 like purists, which I get. D2 is awesome and everything, but yeah.
If I got $5 for every time somebody said I was a paid shill, I would, I don't know, be retired.
Right.
And it's fine. Like and I say this, like D2 is my favorite game of all time. It did establish the genre. It does a lot of things extremely well. But I think that a lot of people that are, I guess to use your term, like purists, like I don't have a problem acknowledging where I think the game comes short. And it is true. It is a 20-year-old game, so it's hard to like. It's not exactly fair to like measure every aspect of it to a modern day ARPG. But all the things that I think it does well, I do think there are a handful of things that it falls short on compared to like modern games. And I don't have a problem like talking about that, where a lot of people just have the mindset that is the perfect game, and it's an amazing game, and again, my favorite game of all time. But I don't think it's the perfect game.
Yeah, and then the thing is too, and probably even for me, I don't think I could even like put my finger on it now, but imagine picking up D2 for the first time, like right now, and playing it, you know, it would probably feel so completely different. And if you're just picking up D4 right now, there's obviously going to be things that aren't going to seem perfect, but the stuff that doesn't seem perfect about D2, either you've already came to accept it, or they're almost like, you're looking at it through rose-colored glasses. You almost like love the imperfections about it. But things with D4, let's say, it doesn't quite feel exactly the way you want to, the mechanics of moving. You wouldn't even feel that about D2 because you have 20 years of like blood, sweat, and tears into it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely kind of see that. As for me, for D4, I have not been lucky enough to get my hands on it or whatever, but looking at it, you can just kind of see the movement and stuff. I think it looks okay, but it's impossible to expect it to look and feel exactly like D2 with it being a modern game, because they have to make it more realistic, right? So I definitely get that. There's
a lot of things. I just want to add on to what you said about the look of it, and it's true. Like, there's a couple things I don't want to talk about in regards to like how the game looks. One is like part of it is like an acquired taste, right? Like you may or may not like it, which is fine. But a lot of the footage that you guys are watching, right? Like the footage that Blizzard gave us was recorded at 1080p, right? And it's not the final version of the game, but it's sent to us recorded at 1080p, and then we upload it again to YouTube. YouTube compresses it. Like it's not actually like if you have a 1440 or a 4K monitor and you crank it to ultra resolution, the game looks amazing. But having that like 1080p recorded footage and then YouTube processing it and uploading it again, it takes away from some of it. Like if you can, like, I think D2R looks amazing. When I was playing it in Ultra, I think that Diablo 4 looks as good or better. Again, that's an acquired taste, but
right. And yeah, the definition of like, yeah, better is obviously like an opinion, but I would feel like with the new graphics, even from what I've seen, I think D4 kind of like looks better, but it I do like how it's a lot darker, more like D2 as well. But just with modern graphics, it's going to look different. You know, there's no way it could look exactly like Diablo 2 or Diablo 2 Resurrected. But I just, some of the criticism I think is people are upset about other things, so then it's kind of going towards everything about it, you know. And I understand the criticism about the battle pass stuff, which is just cosmetic. You know, everyone's heard the whole spiel and knows everything about that. But I think the whole idea of battle pass and really turned a lot of people off. And then obviously there's going to be people that just hate it no matter what. So
yeah, there's a lot of like, contrary to popular belief, like I am not a fan of the battle pass. Like I tried to explain this in like multiple videos, and sometimes I don't know if people either don't watch them all the way through or whatever, but
they definitely don't watch them all the way through.
Yeah, like I don't like the battle pass. I don't like how Blizzard is leaning into FOMO with the cosmetics and the battle pass perks. And even though they're saying that the battle pass perks are not pay to win, the like faster experience bonus is one example. I don't know what other like bonus rewards you can get from buying a battle pass that don't like I just don't know outside of like faster experience like what else it could be, but it not be considered pay to win.
Yeah. Well, wasn't
I don't like that the collect. Sorry,
I was just gonna say I thought that the experience part there was like a free line that everybody would have, right? And then on the free line was like experience, and I don't know, hypothetically speculating here, gold and stuff that you would get for a free battle pass, so logging in every day. And then the paid side was all the cosmetic battle pass, whereas you'd pay for that.
Was it? Yeah, I'd have to reread the blog post and look at the. Yeah, like I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like that the collector's edition doesn't have the game.
Oh yeah, real weird, real weird. Yeah. So
I don't care about cosmetics. I did like if you ever played Path of Exile before.
No, I have not. No.
Okay, so they have MTX cosmetic shop that you can just go in whenever you want to and buy whatever you want to for your character. But they're not leaning into fear of missing out with like the battle pass, right? Like you need to buy that really expensive version to get the whatever those, not Tyromite, the other guy in the Diablo 4 trailer. If you want to get those wings, you need to buy the.
Oh, don't give that guy the wrong name either. You'll get blown up. I did that in the video. You know what I mean,
right? Like I don't like that. I don't
like the whole FOMO thing either, right? That it kind of like, to be honest, the idea that somebody's trying to manipulate me like that, even if it's not a big deal, like, oh, you're not going to manipulate me into coming on every day, like I'm too smart for that. But just the idea that it's trying to do that, it's going to make me not want to play. I hate when people are trying to sell me stuff, when people are trying to manipulate you. Oh, you need to buy this air purifier for your house? Don't you care about your kids? Like trying to manipulate you and pull you this way, pull you that way. Oh, you better log in so you get the experience bonus that everyone else is getting. You just go, you just shut down, just like, no, man, that's not.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and like I see the like, and I've tried to mention this in videos before, but like they plan on doing significant updates like every 3 months, right? So I do see the justification of if a game has a continuous revenue cycle and they're continuing to make a lot of money and bring in players to keep playing it and keep spending more money, like I understand that having that continuous revenue cycle to continue to make new content, right? Like I can see that from a business perspective, but I think it'd be better if it was done the way the Path of Exile did it, and then not the FOMO. But
so Path of Exile, you said they just had paid cosmetics, was it, or it wasn't?
Well, there's paid cosmetics. There's special stash tabs. So there's a currency tab, a map tab. There's like for all different fragments or any like you. It's like you have a shared stash in D2. So you could like. For like $5.99, you could buy a stash that you can stack runes. Like you'd have like a rune stash tab, which would $5 you can buy it, and then you have one for stacking gems, one for stacking whatever, and then you buy them so that like it's hard because you said you never played Path of Exile, but like the amount of loot is like sometimes like triple the amount that drops in D2. So you basically need these tabs to actually play the game past like the campaign.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was that's one of those ones that everyone always asks me, like, hey, you got to try this, or why haven't you tried this? But kind of part of the reason why I started a Diablo 2 channel, I guess. I'm really cheap. Didn't want to buy another game, so kept playing D2 forever. But yeah, there's a ton of games like that I never tried.
It is free to play.
Oh, is that one free?
But, it's free to play, and you could realistically spend $20-$30 and have everything you need. Everything past that's just a luxury, but you could easily spend hundreds if you wanted to.
Guess I never asked, and they never told. Like whoever was telling me to do it, I just assumed it was like another game pick up and buy, right? So we kind of talked about a couple of the good and bad. Another good that I don't know exactly when this was first announced. It might have been kind of recently here. The fact that the like uniques are supposed to be pretty rare items. So at least that means there's some kind of chase items, because with getting love and magic finding is pretty much what I love to do on Diablo 2. So having those chase items is really important to the game for me. So
Yeah, no, it is. It should be like that's getting like the Man Songs lesson or the Fathom, right? Like it's cool that is put into D4. I do actually like, and I don't know, maybe you'd want to comment on this. How, at least when I got a chance to ask them, like their plan, like with itemization, is they don't want to have builds restricted behind specific items, but they still want to have those long-term chase goals. So like the idea behind it is like Diablo 4, if you want to, you can play a fire sorceress from, if a casual player to a hardcore player, you can play fire sorceress all the way through. Where D2, even though Thunder Charms like kind of address that, like basically like fire or lightning is kind of sort of behind affinity paywall. Paywall is not the right word, but you know what I mean, right? Like some builds are restricted behind certain items where they're trying to make it a little bit less like that in D4, which I actually like personally, but then still having the chase items, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say I do. Infinity is one of those, because to get lightning and like fire, you have to catch up to Blizzard in that aspect, like with kill speed and clear speed and all that stuff. I would say, yeah, definitely Infinity is required to catch up. And so, yeah, the main thing, yeah, I'm it's hard to weigh without ever having gotten my hands on it before, but I would say having them all to where you could actually play them all through the game. I mean, I couldn't see how that could be a bad thing, right? Like, definitely giving people more options, so you don't just like the first week of ladder on D2R, it's 7 Blizzard sorceresses and 1 paladin in every game, and then people start branching out to other builds. So
yeah, and then like the counter argument to that is people like they like having that, like D2 doesn't have an end game, right? The D2's end game is just making your character better with better gear. So it takes a long time to get Infinity. So the argument is like it's replayability of the end game grind to get that Infinity to unlock that character, right? Mm-hmm. But that's to somebody that can play 20, 30, 40 hours a week, right? If someone's playing 5 to 10 hours a week, they're likely never going to ever make an Infinity. So they can't actually play an effective form of like a lightning sorceress or a trapson, right? So that's why it's funny, because when I first started my YouTube channel, I had way more time to dedicate to actually playing the game, right? Mm-hmm. And I had less responsibilities, and I was like, no, drop rates are perfect, don't change it. But then when I get to the point where I'm only playing like 10 hours a week, I see it's hard to balance it for a casual player to somebody that's going to play like every day, like 10 hours a day. But I do think that it's good to have something in sort of like the middle. But I don't know, it might be a controversial take, but
yeah, it's hard to say too, because I play so much single player. Like I almost, not exclusively, but almost exclusively, play single player. So it's kind of like, I play as so much of a different style than everybody else, because 95% of people are ladder only pretty much, or some people are non-ladder. Maybe it's like 80, 12 and a half and like 7 and a half that play single player or something. But so my perspective would be a little bit different than everybody else for that type of stuff. But I bet you, I've done polls on this. 80% of people I think would agree that like the drop rates for runes and stuff they think it should be turned up, because getting the stuff like Infinity and Enigma and stuff is way too much for they don't have enough time in one ladder, which I completely get. Finding time to do anything, especially you're working 40 hours a week, kids, I joke about it and stuff in my videos, not really joke, but I fly up funny pictures and stuff. But the kids, the wife snagging at you, the pipe broke in the basement, and then you're trying to worry about getting a rune. So
yeah, no, it's impossible to please everybody, but I think somewhat in the middle is a good approach. What is your take on restricted trading?
Restricted trading,
because I have seen everything from I think it's a good thing, like do you remember when? And this is not a shade thing, but just remember when everybody was pissed off when Mr. Llama was second or first or whatever in the first ladder. Remember they were pissed off that he got Enigma on day one, and they're like, streamers can have 10 times the amount of like community gifts than a regular player can. It's not a fair race. Restricted trading would like level that playing field, right? And then on the same token, like Diablo clone is spawning like 10 times a day now on ladder. Like that's from duped SOJs, right? But then on the other polar end of the spectrum is like if you were to drop like a 25 or sorry, plus 20 or negative 20 plus 15, like perfect griffins, right? And then you wanted to trade it to acquire wealth, like that's like the other end of the argument where like people don't like restricted trading because what if I drop something amazing? So like where do you sit on the spectrum? Because I've seen people say it's a like literally not being have unrestricted free trading is a deal breaker and they won't play D4. I would kind of like to see it unrestricted, but it's not a deal breaker for me if it is some form of restricted trading. I can kind of see like the pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Do you have a balanced take on it, or are you kind of like towards one end of the spectrum or the other?
Well, it's kind of funny because like playing so much single player, so my opinion or whatever you'd think would be like based upon that. On single player, you can't trade at all. Like you find the item, you have to go get it, and if you don't find your Griffin's Eye that I really want to find right now on D2R single player and I can't find it, you're SOL, you're out of luck. So but I think for online games, I think it should be unrestricted trading. And I know what that kind of leads to, what it'll lead to, and it's what they don't want. And I mean, I would prefer not have it either. You have real money websites that are, then you end up having bots, you end up having people trying to dupe stuff, and it is a negative to have all that stuff. It definitely is. But I think the benefits of unrestricted trading outweigh all that other stuff. And I mean, I think they should try to fight and try to stop people from duping, try to stop people from botting and stuff like that. And they should, the amount that they would gain from, I think from longevity of people playing.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't see their pocketbooks. I don't know how much it costs to ban a bunch of bots and find that stuff, but I think it would outweigh it to fight the bots and fight the duping and allow unrestricted trading.
So you kind of have the same take as me, where you would like to see unrestricted trading, but it's not a deal breaker for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But the whole thing about restricting bots and real money websites and stuff like that, again, a perfect world, but like we don't live in a perfect world. Like you look at Call of Duty, right? The amount of money and revenue that Activision makes from Call of Duty dwarfs D2, D1, D3, everything combined, even put Path of Exile, everything, right? And they can't get a full hold on like auto aim bots and stuff like that, right? So it's always, you're never going to have that perfect like zero botting, right?
Right.
You only like, if they leave it exactly the way it is right now, you might see like paying for services, like maybe paying to have someone carry you through a dungeon or something, but that would be the only extent of real money trading, right?
Yeah.
If you can't actually trade the rarest items, there won't be shops to buy items from. It'd just be services, like they'll help you with this world boss or whatever.
Yeah. I wonder if they would have it where you could, I mean, I'm not giving anybody ideas here, but someone could like essentially bot run and level your character for you. Like how the people can take control of your computer and run it. Someone could take control and just run your guy for you
like
and level.
A service to like a service to level you or carry you through. That would be the only.
So in D4,
thing that they could do.
There obviously, if there's no trading, I'm unsure if it's obvious or not, but so there wouldn't be any sharing of items even between like your own characters on your own account.
It's traded. It's traded. It's changed. There's been like multiple iterations of like beta testing. So at one point we could trade rares, magic items, and then you could upgrade a rare item. But then it's every time I've asked them, they haven't even given me a solid answer. So it's like they're not even actually fully set. It's just like
I got
there will be some form of restricted trading. I would imagine it's probably going to settle on like you can probably trade crafting materials, maybe glyphs for like your Paragon board and like magic and rare items, but probably like all forms of legendary items and unique items you won't be able to trade. I'd imagine it'd be something like that. Like every time I've asked, I've always got a response of it's going to be some sort of like balanced middle ground approach. It's not going to be entirely account bound, or it's not going to be entirely like unrestricted trading. So where it actually lines up in the middle, like I don't know exactly, but
yeah, I think in the latest one where they unveiled their new interview cave or whatever, they did talk about it a little bit, but it's hard to keep everything in this bald head of mine. But they said something about what's it called when you take the power out of one, and then you put it in not a sigil. I forget what it's called, where you take the power out of one, you put it in a thing, and then you can put it on another item. I think you could trade those things, but you couldn't trade the actual items. So hard to remember.
Yeah, like the legendary.
Yeah, cool
like
story,
like
Phil.
a rare item is like 4 or 5. I think it's like 5 affixes or whatever. Legendary has like a special 6th one, and you can like extract that 6th affix. So it'd be like if you could extract like the negative lightning res off of Griffins, and then you could put it onto a Shaco.
Right.
That kind of makes sense. That's like the
Yep.
D2.
That's what I was trying to say. I can't remember the name of the thing, so it kind of ruins my story. But
the occultist. Yeah, I didn't even actually watch that D4 stream, so I haven't seen it.
ah,
I haven't had time.
no, I didn't.
So
No, I got you. Yeah, busy life. Speaking of Shaco and Griffins and stuff, that was a cool thing that I thought they did. They mentioned it in the new stream thing that you didn't quite have time to watch, but the unique items. They said that some of the old stuff is going to be coming back in name form, at least, with different stuff changed. Like they mentioned Shaco and they mentioned Grandfather and I think Wind Force. So I thought that was pretty cool too. And I mean, not that it's surprising. You kind of got to bring some of the, familiar hits along, nostalgic type of stuff, So I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, no, for sure.
Wonder if the green cap's going to look any better in this one, right? I've heard a lot of people unhappy with how the Shaco looks in D2, and I was like, I never really thought about it.
I haven't seen a green cap, but I only have like 100 hours of playing a druid mostly, and then a little bit of a sorceress. So
gotcha. Of course, the druid. That's what you said. You're going to start off on it, right? Because you love druids, right?
Yeah, that'll be the character that I play for sure.
You rock elemental druid, or you go with that? I think that bear. Some of the videos of the bear, like the druid jumping off the horse and then changing into the bear mid air and slashing down, looked pretty nasty.
I'll probably be earth-based elemental skills.
Gotcha.
There's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, there's like tornado, lightning storm, physical boulder spells. So a lot of stuff to play around with.
Gotcha. Yeah, the druid looked pretty cool. I was kind of thinking about it, but so many options. It is notorious. I'm notorious for starting off with the barbarian on every single type of game ever. So maybe I'm gonna go with the barbarian. Just walk up like barbarian's always the easiest one to play too. You push the button, push the button, push the button, push the button.
Yeah. Melee early on is better in D4 than D2.
Oh, little inside scoop.
I hate melee. Well, it's not really inside scoop, right?
No, I just meant like from somebody who played 100 hours already, letting me know what's going on.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm not a fan of melee in D2. Endgame melee is okay. Like, I don't mind Fury Druid and stuff like that, but the lack of AoE, it's not my favorite.
Yeah, definitely.
Not my favorite to play in D2.
Real rough early on for sure. Like, there's almost nothing you can do early on to really make it good.
But even high end, like, I'm not like the biggest fan. Like, I'd rather play Fire Druid, Wind Druid, Lightning Sorceress, like Foden. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's just slow playing. Like, doing Chaos Sanctuary runs as a Fury Druid is like, it's pretty slow.
Yeah, I guess
it's like
when I think of melee, I guess the only thing that pops to mind is like teleporting, like Pit Zerker. Like that instantly pops into my head, like, because I don't hardly do almost anything else. Every once in a while I do a frenzy or something, because it's, you just hold down the button and you take a nap while you run through, and it just takes everything out. You don't have to look at the screen.
Play a Fury Druid. I like it.
Yeah, I dabbled with it a little bit before. Maybe we'll put it on the list over here for Phil's next thing to try out again. So, for when D4 is going to be coming out, not that long. You probably when that comes out, is D2R just going to be like pushed to the side for you, or you think you're going to be kind of like playing them both back and forth or something like that?
I'll revisit D2 like every season if there's like new mechanics, or like new items or new rune words. I'll mess around with like new content in D2, but I'll mostly be D4. Like, I've pretty much done, like, I have played every single build, iteration, and version you can think of. I found every single item in the game except for 2, Tyrell's Might and Astrian's on my Holy Grail. I have rolled every single rune word. I don't really have it. I've done Ubers on every single character I can think of doing it outside of a smiter. Like there's nothing new left for me to do in that game other than like I guess dabble in PvP. So I'm definitely eager to try out new content. Like I personally like Center Charms. Like I think ripping through Chaos Sanctuary with a Hydra Sorceress was cool. That's something that we weren't really able to do for like I don't know, 20 years, right?
sure,
and then
yeah.
Center Charms and Hydra Sorceress, like running through Chaos Sanctuary was really cool. Same with Fire Druid. That was new, like new content. I like that. If there's new rune words, like it'd be really cool if there's, I don't know, some new powerful 2 open socket rune word for a shield or something that gave you an aura that you could maybe use in necro heads, like just for example, like something that's new, right? Like if there was like a +2 to all skills, I can't even think of an aura off the top of my head, like some aura, whatever, and then you roll in like a +3 to Bone Spear, Necro Head or something, right? You could have a +5. You could use something other than Spirit, right? 99.99% of builds use Spirit on the offhand.
Yeah, yeah.
And the main hand, other than maybe like a hardcore Storm Shield setup. So
yeah, I do like the idea of rune words going into class specific items, or really doing anything with class specific stuff for D2R, because it just gives you so many other options. A lot of times a rune word, you plug the rune word into just nothing. Like the flickering flame has a little bit of an opportunity for this for like the druid pelts, right? And I've been searching for druid pelts, can't find them, but I feel like it would just be a really cool and it would help out at least a little bit for having 3 to this skill, 3 to that skill, throwing the flickering flame in it, kind of something along those lines. I've always kind of liked that, and I think that's one thing PD2 kind of got that was kind of cool, that where you could craft blood helms with a barbarian helm or in a druid pelt and things like that. So
yeah, like even rumors like the Plague rune word opened up a lot of cool opportunities. Like you could run variants. Like I was using on my Fire Druid, I was using a Lawbringer, Plague, Flickering Flame, Act 5 Barbarian. So I had consistent like crowd control with the Sanctuary Aura, I had relatively consistent decrep procs and lower res procs. And then the resist Holy Fire Aura too. So it was just like a different option other than the Act 2 Mercenary. So that was really cool. The Act 1 Insight Bow, cold freezing arrow setup, like that's another like really like cool mercenary that was introduced from being able to use insight in a bow, right? Like I don't know if you've messed around with it a lot, but if you don't have a CTA, an Act 1 rogue insight mercenary has better survivability because it hangs way back, it doesn't get into monsters' faces, and then it freezes monsters. So it's a good way of getting an meditation aura, before you have CTA and like your mercenary surviving, right? But that was like a cool option that was opened up from a new rune word. Flickering Flame did that too. Plague did that too. So I hope the next patch has like 10 new cool bonkers rune words that shifts the meta, because I want to see the meta shifted a little bit personally.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of the mercenary thing, I actually haven't dabbled around with them too many. It's being on single player, or I guess maybe that could be part of it, but just once you get Infinity on the Act 2 Mercenary and you have CTA and stuff, like you said, it's just it's hard to really get away from that, like whether I guess once in a while use something besides CTA, but going to you'll be using a Reaper's Toll, or you need the insight for the meditation or something. So I kind of get really streamlined on that Act 2 Mercenary, but I've been meaning to dabble around with at least the Act 5 one, just because they seem like they put out so much damage.
Yeah, don't sleep on the Plague Mercenary. It's really cool. Like, depending on your character, like if you're using a Foden, you can run whatever aura you want. The Plague Mercenary is very cool. Having the cleansing aura, if you roll, like I think it's level 13 to 17, I think. But anyways, it reduces curse duration, I think, up to like almost 80%. So if you're in Chaos Sanctuary and you get hit with like an amp damage curse, it's literally gone in like 2 seconds. If you're hit with poison, it's gone in 2 seconds. It's the most underrated rune word in my opinion. Like the lower res proc, it goes off relatively frequently, and it's like -60 resistance. So it's not like that consistent -80 6, I think, or whatever it is from Infinity. But it's definitely, you should definitely try it out.
Gotcha.
Depending
Yeah.
on the character, it's fun.
Yeah. Which one did you say you recommend? Maybe I'll steal one of your ideas from you here. What character you said it goes good with the Foden, the Act 5 mercenary?
I liked it on the Foden because the Foden, I have the comment section is probably gonna lose it for me saying this, but
Yes, I love the interaction. Let's go.
I don't think Conviction is a good aura for the Foden because most of the damage comes from the Holy Bolt that's spreading out, not the initial Lightning Strike. So I argue that you're better off using like a Redemption aura, but since you're not dependent on that Conviction like you are with like a Lightning Sorcerer, it opens up opportunities. So when I was playing the first ladder, I ran an Act 5 Plague Mercenary with Lawbringer. So the Sanctuary aura would always fan out the undead in Chaos Sanctuary. So they would never be like on top of me. And then I would just strike my Fist Heavens and then Holy Bolts would fan out and kill everything. So it's like I constantly had like great survivability. The Cleansing aura would always remove the curses. Like it was just a really good combination because I didn't rely on the Act 2 Mercenary. And then I could use Redemption to replenish my mana. So that's, I don't know, that's one option. It's good on the Fire Druid too, I think. But
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree with that. The Conviction Paladin thing. I don't know. I dabbled around with it when it was in the PTR and the kind of right after it launched, but I haven't in a while. But I remember playing it a little bit, and I kind of agreed with that. And I had heard some other smart people in my community kind of say that similar things. So people in the comment section, don't go too crazy, all right? Or no, do go crazy because we need the comments. So yeah, but you were talking about you would like it to have a bunch of crazy rune words come kind of for the next thing because you would like the new.
well, I don't want to say
content,
like not like crazy, like ridiculously broken rune words.
Just like real
but
powerful ones to like compete with the ones that are there, kind of.
it would be cool if there was an alternative to the existing meta. Like it would be cool if I could choose something that was a viable alternative to Spirit or a caster or like a necromancer, or it'd be cool if there was a other melee rune word similar in cost that matched grief. Like stuff like that is kind of like Mist is a cool bow, but like it's in a weird spot because if you want pure physical damage, Faith or Wind Force is the way to go. If you want pure cold damage, Ice is the way to go, right? Mist is kind of this like weird, like when I was first shown Mist, they had a resist cold aura on it instead of concentration. I was like, no, you need to put some other aura because no one is going to use it if it doesn't, if it has a resist cold aura.
No.
Well, I'm serious. I'm serious. Like I was like, if you want to go pure fire, you're going to go Phoenix or Hand of Justice. You want to go pure cold damage, you're going to go Ice. If you want to go pure physical, you're going to go Wind Force or Faith. There's no reason to use this, right? So if they introduce 10 new rune words, but none of them are even close to the existing meta and there's no reason to use them, how does it change everything? Like there's already a handful of rune words that people don't use. Eternity, Brand, Wrath.
Yeah, a lot. I think there's kind of a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of. There's one that has like 200 lightning, cold, fire damage. It's a jaw rune and something else. Famine. Again, another super expensive one that no one uses. That's another thing too. What do you think about this idea? Not necessarily like introducing 10 new rune words, but maybe just allowing you to roll existing rune words in different bases.
I would put it under a definite maybe. I see. I don't fall exactly into the Diablo 2 purist type of person, but I feel like maybe I'm not as far into my Diablo 2 journey as you are. Perhaps I'm still pretty happy and having a great time. Like whether I'm going for more Grail items and magic finding and stuff like that. So I'm not as far as you are wanting a bunch of new things. I'm more of what I am at, or where I'm at with D2R is I'm more like worried that they're going to mess something up or do something I don't like. You know what I mean? Because like I wasn't a huge fan of like the Terra Zone stuff and the Sunder Charms. So that kind of stuff, adding things in that I don't like that everybody else, not that everyone else does, like just adding things in that I don't like or that I think will like might mess the game up in some way. I'm kind of not for personally, I'm
Yeah,
more
fair
worried
enough.
about it, I guess.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think Thunder Charms was perfect. Like it was a little bit bonkers with the Cold Sorceress, like a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh, like I feel like there's good and bad if like depending on how you look at Thunder Charms. Like it was, I think it was broken for a Cold Sorceress. I just think that it was. I
Hmm.
made a video a while ago. I think you commented on it where I tested like a perfect geared Cold, perfect gear Fire, perfect geared Lightning, and I used a Thunder Charm on each of them, and they were all well within like the same clear speed. But it's just like the Cold Sorceress, it was really just the Fathom was the really hard thing to get. Everything else was like, right, but the fire was like Flickering Flame, Phoenix, Infinity Mercenary. Same with Lightning was like Griffin's Infinity Mercenary. It was way more expensive to get the same clear speed. So that's an example of where like I think Thunder Charm was a little bit of a poor implementation. The physical Thunder Charm is useless for the most part. But I do think that it was cool that Fire had a chance to go through areas it normally wouldn't versus being relegated to the Stony Tombs. So like I think that there was as many good things added to the game as there was negative things.
Yeah, and I
But I
think
don't necessarily. Oh, go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say, I think with the Sunder Charms, and I don't know, you'd be curious to hear your opinion on it, but I've heard pretty much everyone I've ever talked to kind of agreed with my opinion here. The amount that they drop is part of the problem too, because if the Sunder Charm, the reason that it's so powerful with the cold is because you can have a Spirit Sword and like a Lore Helm and a Stealth Armor and wreck the entire game because you're gonna get a
Yeah.
cold Sunder Charm in the
Yeah.
first 3 days if you play a significant amount. Like the people
Yeah.
who play a lot of Diablo 2, they, in the first couple of days, even if you didn't get one from the original glitch from the Barb find item, you probably had one right away. If you played in a player's 8 game for an hour,
Yeah.
through going through Terror Zones, 10, 12 of them would have dropped by then,
Yeah.
So,
That was the problem with the cold Thunder Charm for the cold sorcerer specifically because of a cold mastery interaction. Yeah,
mhm.
100%. I agree with you. 1,000% agree with you on that. But like the fire variant though, right? If you dropped a fire Thunder Charm, if you were doing like 5,000 Fisher damage, well, no, 5,000. That's okay. I'm just trying to think. Early Fire Druid, you're doing like 2.5K Fisher, right? If you find a Fire Thunder Charm and then you bring that monster down to 95% Fire Res, and you're only doing 5% of 2,500, you're tickling them, right?
Right, yeah.
So
Yep.
Fire was gauged and balanced appropriately, in my opinion, because it required like Raven Lore, Facets, getting Infinity or Plague Mercenary. Like you had to stack all those things on top of a Thunder Charm to get the desired outcome that you wanted to, right? Where, like you said, with Cold Mastery, it was just having as much negative res as you could, Spirit, Dual Spirit, Lore Helmet, and you could wipe the floor with everything, right? Like that was the problem where, but I think that was because of Cold Mastery's interaction.
For sure,
personally,
yeah.
But
Yeah, and I'm kind of not. Originally, I was surprised. I thought they would be rare at first, but then actually, it was when I was talking to the Iceman actually, and he was like, "You really think they're going to be rare? You think they made this thing and they're not gonna have nobody find it? They're like, it's not going to be rare like a high rune. Like they want everybody to have these. I think they're going to be falling everywhere." And I was like, "Oh man, you're probably right. They're not gonna spend all this time putting something in the game and not give it to everybody."
yeah, I think Estrun rarity would be a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah,
But then
definitely.
even then, but again, depending on who you ask, like I said that I thought Estrun rarity would be appropriate. But then some people that don't get to play as much were
Right.
like, no, like I actually want a chance to experience it. I'm like, fair enough. Everyone's got a different opinion. I will say though that I respectfully disagree on the like having a grief alternative, or like I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think more item options is a good thing because I think every single build, every single character, whether it's helmet, amulet, belt, whatever, it usually funnels down to using like one of like 3 or one of 2 items.
Hmm.
So I do think that even though Diablo 2 is one of the only RPGs that fully utilizes everything from white bases to magic, rare, set, uniques, and rune words, like it's great in that regard, right? Because like, you're looking for rumored bases. Some items are using G-Face for a helmet. Some are using Arachna's Mesh for a belt. Yada yada yada. But I think for each character, there's always like a 1 or 2 best in slot choice. There's not really a lot of like diverse options. So I don't necessarily think it'd be a bad thing if there was like a grief alternative or a spirit alternative.
Yeah, I guess if I was saying that I didn't think that I thought it'd be bad if there was an alternative, I guess I wasn't necessarily saying that. I guess I don't have the trust that they would do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to end up with crazy power creep essentially or whatever, where we got to try to make this as good as the grief, and then they put out a few rune words, not necessarily grief competitors, but you know what I mean. And those rune words, I mean, aren't used a ton. Occasionally a flickering flame and like plague or whatever, but a lot of the other ones aren't used. Man, next time we need to make these more powerful. They put some more in, and then it's like, oops, we did this a little bit wrong, and now it's twice as powerful as a grief, because we forgot this mechanic or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we got to make the monster stronger, and then none of these other none of these other items work because they made the monster stronger because of this rune. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, no, like that is a fair argument, and I do agree with that. I do think that you'd have to be pretty dumb to like not be able to figure out like the damage output. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I do like I think that what you're saying, your concerns are 100% valid and legit. Completely agree with you. And I actually have that same concern, but I do think that they would be able to look at grief and be like, okay, so grief has this much damage output. Breath of the Dying has this much output. I think they could get something close in between. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they couldn't, but
yeah, it's obviously impossible for me to say. I don't know them at all. I haven't worked with them. I don't know how to program games and stuff myself. And I know that you had mentioned that you had talked to them a little bit when the original rune words or whatever for in D2R came in. So you kind of know if they're asking the right questions and stuff like that. So you would have a little bit of insight on that. So
but I agree with you about the power creep. Like I don't want to see power creep come through the game, but I would like to see like different alternative options. But then finding that balance, yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, it's a toughie. So we'll say for D2R, like you mentioned the extra rune words. Is there any other changes? Because I know you, like you said, you've pretty much done everything. Would you want other skill balance change type of things too, or anything like that?
I think it'd be cool to see like a couple different alternatives. Like just off the top of my head, like for the druid, Oak Sage is useful, right? Heart of the Wolverine is useful. Spirit of the Barbs is not.
Oh, is that druid, right?
It's just not. The skill Hunger is not really useful. If you want to go for the Necro, they tried to address this, but like Clay Golem with Decrep is fantastic, right? You can make monsters like underwater. Iron Golem out of an Insight is fantastic, like great utility, right? People don't really use Blood Golem. People don't really use Fire Golem. People don't really use mages other than they're like meat shields for like Uber Summit builds. So I don't know, different interaction change there would be cool. Maybe for like the Paladin's like in a pretty good spot. I don't think it really needs anything, but like there are a handful of skills nobody uses, like conversion, right? The more points you put into conversion has higher chance of converting a monster, but it's only for flat like 60-second duration. I don't know. Maybe it'd be cool if the duration scaled as you put points. So you could have like I don't know, you could convert like 30 monsters and you'd have like a mini Necro or something. What else? Like they have done a good job. Like there's a lot of builds that weren't viable that they did make viable. I still think martial arts on the Sin is rough, other than using Dragon Talon for Uber setup. I think like people don't really use Phoenix Strike, Claws of Thunder. It'd be cool to see a little bit there.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Frozen Orb. Wait, sorry. I have to get this off my chest. Make Frozen Orb useful. I'm sorry.
Make Frozen Orb useful?
Frozen Orb was useful before Sunder Charms as a dual spec build. But like with Sunder Charms, there's no point of running anything other. I don't know.
Okay.
I've seen people make the argument. I've seen people make the argument that you can spam Blizzard and Frozen Orb at the same time, but I don't know.
I did actually do that a little bit recently. I actually, for nostalgia's sake, I jumped back down to the Ancient Tunnels, and like every little while I would change, did some, the classic Blizzard Ice Blast, and I did what you were saying with the Orb Blizzard back and forth instead of using Ice Blast, and then I actually I did Frost Nova, did just Orb and stuff, so it's hard when you know, when you got multiple cold skills, and obviously Blizzard is like the most powerful one, you know, having all the skills like actually balanced to where it's like, oh, I'm gonna do an orb build instead of Blizzard because they're like making them exactly equal damage. It's like, I feel like it's like impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely think like that's actually a good point. Like, where like Blizzard is kind of like a smaller concentrated area, right? So you should have like more damage, but like where Frozen Orb is more like area of effect. So it's not like you should have like there should definitely be a difference between like a heavy area effect skill versus like heavy like damage concentration skill, if that makes sense. But like a good example is, so prior to I think it was 2.4, right, where lightning and chain lightning was pretty much the way to go. If you wanted to, you could mess around with Nova. It was a very expensive, but it was like a relatively subpar build, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they made Nova's banger now. Like it's fun. It's probably more popular than chain lightning.
I do like what they did with Nova. I will be honest with that. Yeah.
So it would be cool to see that with Frozen Orb. But I know some people don't like the idea of, I don't know if changing Frozen Orbs significantly has like ramifications for PvP. But again, it's impossible to please everybody. So I'm sure there's, for every person in the comments that's going to be like, yeah, it would be cool to see new meta, there's probably just as many people that don't want to see changes. So I do respect everyone's opinion for sure.
Yeah. And I know I mentioned earlier that I was kind of concerned with any changes. Like I was worried that they're going to mess it up from the skills changes. I like you said, I think it was 2.4. The way that everything ended up, I was kind of pretty happy with, to be honest. I think I remember seeing or hearing your opinion that you would wish they would have pushed that further and had more changes. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. I do remember you saying that in one of your videos. I was pretty happy with how it ended up, because I think the worst thing would have been just like making a drastic mistake with the skills. Like if several of them would have ended up crazy. And I don't know what they would have done, like reverted them mid-season or something, or just left them in. So I'm better with having the game that has been as popular as it has and was as big as it was at launch, D2R, like staying the same and just as good as it was before, than having something risk it getting, you know, worse. But I was happy with the Fist of Heavens, the way it turned out. It's pretty good, but I don't think it's like the best in the entire, you know, I don't think it's better than a Hammerden or whatever Blizzard Sorceress stuff. I was happy with Nova. It's really good for certain instances, small packs on lower players counts, and you can't get the damage up. So I think they ended in a pretty good place. Have you dabbled around at all with the Frost Nova?
A little bit, yeah. It's a fun build. It's like aggressive play style, but it's like you need really good gear, and you run like players 1. Maybe P3, super mana hungry.
Yeah, I did rock.
Yeah, I never really tried a budget variant. Like I did like Fathom, Nightwing, all that stuff, and it was cool. It works, but it's definitely like you're not doing players a bail runs as a Frost Nova Sorceress. Like,
no, you're not. Yeah, I hopped down into the Arachnid's lair, Spider Cave. I always get those ones mixed up. Even when I'm running through the game, I can't remember which one to go to get the eye or whatever it is. But the
one that the waypoint is not there.
Yeah, well, whichever one's the new 85 area there. I hopped down in there on P3, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but it was fun though. It was a fun run though. So that's another one that they changed a little bit that I was kind of happy with. That I kind of like some of the ones that are like builds or stuff that are like quote unquote like they're viable, but they're not necessarily the most powerful. You know what I mean? I like testing that stuff out on single player a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's but so back to your point about wishing they went a little bit further. I'm happy that D2 has gotten, like, I didn't even think we were going to get a remake, right? Getting a remake was crazy. Getting the skill revamp was amazing. Getting the addition of Quick Cast, I like Quick Cast. I don't play with, like, I think the Quick Cast, once I switched to it, I can't go back. Like, I think that was a great improvement. For the most part, I do like Terra Zones. It's cool to like run a different area. Like running through Flare Jungle was cool. But so the counter argument that I would have to, like, I agree you could go too far, but I really think that 2.4, it just brought out, like, Foden was cool. Sorceress got stronger. Paladin got stronger. A handful of their builds went from being not viable to viable, but still, ladder is like 90% sorceresses and paladins, with like sprinkling in of other character builds. So I guess my question to ask you is, do you think D2 suffers from a core problem of just everything is sorceress and paladin only, and that the other builds need some love? Or do you think that you'd rather it just be the way that it is and have everything essentially be subpar, with the exception of like Javazon Hammered and Blizzard Sorceress? Like,
I think for beginning of ladder, I think the only way you could eliminate that really would be taking teleport away from the sorceress, or like making this.
Let's just say like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just say, or making the sorceress like so weak damage wise that you couldn't like magic find for gear for other characters early on, or do what they did in D4 and bind the items to the character so you can't transfer them over. It's another option, I guess. But
no, that would be. I don't want to see that. But like, I'm just saying, what do you think about like, say like the current state of ladder right now? Because I still think even with the best possible gear, I still think it's largely dominated by like Hammered and some Fodens and Blizzard Sorceress, Lightning Sorceress, Nova Sorceresses, Javazons. There might be like an odd sprinkling of like a Fire Druid here or Boazon there, right? But it's largely like your point about the start of ladder is accurate. But let's say once you like in the current state of ladder right now, it's still that way. So do you think it's just what do you think? Like, what's your feeling on that?
I don't know that necessarily, and maybe you have some good solutions. Like, well, the solution would be bumping up all the skills and stuff for the other characters, but kind of similar to what I was saying, I guess, kind of an analogy, sort of towards the open trading being like just doing the wrong thing. How am I trying to word this here? Like I just don't think that the changes. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just kind of stuck in my ways. As I guess I just don't want all the changes and stuff. I just kind of like the way that it is, to where you get the gear and then you do the builds that you like want to do or whatever. And it might be be part of the reason why I do single player once again too, because I like the fact that some of the builds aren't as powerful, but you have to like make them, like you force it to be, you bring it to fruition. So, but that will lead a lot of the stuff to not be used, because a lot of people will just only want to use the most powerful builds, right? So
I agree with you. Like, I largely agree with you. I don't actually have a solution for it, but I think it depends on which characters you're talking about. Like, I think if you take like the Lightning Sorceress, for example, and compare her to the Trapson, Lightning Sorceress has a bit better mobility, even if they both have Enigma, right? Lightning Sorceress does have more overall damage, but like, I don't necessarily think the answer is making a Trapson have the same amount of damage as Sorceress, because a Trapson gets way more life per vitality point. Trapson has Cloak of Shadows, Trapson has Mind Blast, Trapson has Corpse Explosion from Death Sentry. She has like 3 main traps, right? Like Fire Blast, Lightning Sentry, and Death Sentry. Like, she has a different combination, and she's more tanky with crowd control skills. So it makes sense that she doesn't have the same amount of damage, because she excels in areas that the Lightning Sorceress doesn't, right? So that's an example of where, like, I think, yes, like, the answer is not like bumping up a Trapson. Like, I think that's appropriate balancing. But like, a Summon Druid is ass. There's no way around it. I don't care what anybody says. Like, with the perfect gear, it's horrible. So unless you just want to like play it to be different, even though it wasn't even viable, now it's like somewhat viable. That's an example of like, they're extreme, right? Or like the Martial Arts Assassin, they made it a bit better, but it's still really bad in my opinion. Even with like the best possible gear, it's really bad. But like Javazon, right? Javazon's great AoE, tons of damage, requires expensive gear. Where Poison Javelin, it's only 40 skills, so it makes sense that it's not quite as much damage. It gives you the option of like doing dual spec builds. Like, that's another example of where like it makes sense where Poison doesn't quite match Lightning Fury, because if you wanted to, you could go like Leg Javelin hybrid with something else, right? Like, I don't think a 40 skill point build should be whatever the investment of Lightning Fury is, but I still think there's a handful of existing builds in the game that are just extremely subpar that should be bumped up a little bit, but not entirely across the board. But again, that's my take. We all have different opinions.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I understand. And Yeah, and it's one of the things I mentioned a bunch of times. I just worry about, the game that I want to play all the time, and that my channel's dedicated around of it. For me, where it's at now, like, in my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't view it as, I'm not being bored of it and still loving to play it and stuff like that. It's always fear of change, I guess you could throw out there. Fear of change, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that it's better to go more conservative in your changes than it is to go extreme. And yeah, like I do agree with you. I just think that under the spectrum of it, you're probably a little bit more reserved, where I'm a little bit more for it. But I'm not
Absolutely.
like I don't want it to be median Excel. I just want like more options, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you for sure. So, when do you think they're going to add in that Act 6 for Diablo 2 Resurrected, huh?
Never.
Another little comedy question in there. Does this joke?
Yeah, and I genuinely don't think we'll ever see. I didn't think we'd get something like Terror Zones. I think you might see minor item changes, new words from season to season. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think they will add in a few more rune words. Yeah, but I'm not sure about. I was kind of surprised by the whole Sunder Charm Terror Zone thing as well, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was just going to be, tweaking a number here, a number there on a skill, adding in a new couple rune words, and, like, have fun, guys.
Yeah.
We're working on D4 still.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Everything we've gotten so far, I didn't expect. So, yeah, I agree.
Gotcha. So, wanted to switch just for a little bit towards the end here. Get off of D2R for just a little bit. You're a big fan of, like, I see you playing Sonic back in the day a little bit, right? You used to stream it here and there. Is that like one of your faves from your childhood, or is that something you picked up more recently?
Yeah, no, growing up, I had a Sega Genesis. So
Legend, yeah. Sega.
Yeah, I played Sonic, was my favorite game on Sega Genesis, and then I had PlayStation, which I did the whole like Twisted Metal Gear Solid thing, and then Diablo, and then past that it was games like Resident Evil, Dead Space, stuff like that. Those are my games, like platformers. So platformers like Sonic and Crash Bandicoot, ARPGs like Diablo, Last Epoch, Path of Exile, and survival horror games like Resident Evil, Dead Space, or the new Callisto Protocol. Those are like my jam for games.
Gosh, yeah, the Sonics were so classic back in the day. I remember how much it blew my mind. I had the first one, but it was the second one. All of a sudden, you'd be running down the tube, and I thought that was like mind-blowing graphics. How did they do that? It's a side scroller, and then it's like almost like you're running forward. What is going on here?
Yeah. There's it's on Steam. I think it's called Sonic Origins. I think it's a $35 collection of Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic whatever the one after. So it's upscaled, widescreen support, and you can get it on Steam for $35.
Modern technology, geez.
You want to play Sonic?
I wonder. We probably still got. I think my wife's Sega's over here. Actually, got to pull that sucker out. Gotcha. Yeah, there was. Did you ever play any of the Elder Scrolls games and stuff like that, or did that never got to you?
No, I did not. I had a PlayStation 3. Was Elder Scrolls on? Is it on PS4? PS3?
I don't know. It's definitely Xbox stuff because I after Sega, I was like Sega, the first PlayStation, and then PS2, and then I had a PS2 and an Xbox, and then I went Xbox from there on out.
Oh,
so
never played Halo, never played Xbox stuff.
Oh man. Halo was it back in the day. Halo and the Call of Duties, but yeah, those Elder Scrolls games that's another mind-blowing type of situation. When one of those games would come out every 10 years, just how much your eyes would hurt after 4 hours of like not blinking, like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Like, how does this look so good? And then you go back and look at it now, and it's just like these blocks, and they're like, it looks like Minecraft, but back then it was like so sick. So sick.
For sure.
So I like getting into a couple personal things while we do these type of things too. So yours, DBrunski125, that's from one of your old hobbies, right? Or do you still ride
Yeah,
125s?
it's the CC displacement of my favorite motocross class.
Okay.
So 125cc two-stroke. The bikes are a ton of fun. You just ring them out. They don't have a lot of power, but they rev really high, and they're almost like bicycles with motors. Like they're just fun to throw around. They're light. They're like the most enjoyable experience you can have on a motocross bike. So
Nice.
yeah.
Do you still indulge in that? Do you still ride it all, or?
I still have my bikes, but I don't ride. I quit
retired.
that like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
Gotcha.
I can't afford to break my leg or arm or collarbone anymore.
Right. Yeah. I do got a friend that actually still does race that stuff like competitively, and his wife will like every time we bring it up or we go over and he's got like eight different bikes in his garage, and she'll just look at you like, yeah, he's still
nice.
doing it.
Nice.
We're like 40, he's still doing it. All right. Yeah, that's what I literally. Speaking of not wanting to get hurt, like yeah, I'll literally be up at the park, like my daughter go off and play at the park, and I'm like shooting hoops, and someone will like, hey, come over and play a game. I'm like, I can't, I'm too old, and like if I twist an ankle, I can't go up and down the stairs to get to my computer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, boy, getting old, huh? Getting old. At least you got that lovely mop up on top of your head, though, right? But I can't believe all the money you spend on shampoo and haircuts. I couldn't do that anymore. All the money savings now, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I bet you the razor blades add up. I bet you razor blades are more.
Yeah, well, come on, man, come on. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and call it here now. I took some nighttime cold medicine before I came down here, so I think it might be kicking in here pretty soon.
Sounds good.
So been pretty rough this last week, but thanks a bunch, man, for joining me on this. So I don't know if I'll have it out in another week or two here or something, but just mega thanks for joining me here on the Philcast with the legend over here. I'm pointing to you. Trust me, the audience will see it. The legend. So
yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe up, everybody. All right. Peace out, DBrunski.
Yep.
Peace out, everybody.